Hello, this is Dr. Jazayuri. This is my COVID update. I believe it's 16 now. It's been a while since I've done some. I just wanted to wait to see what's happening because, as you know, at least in the United States, in most countries actually, the governments have kind of opening things up. So a couple of things that happened this week. One is they found that, again, the numbers is only, I think, 2,000 people, so it's good, but we need more numbers to really make the study strong. But they found that apparently people who have type O blood have less severe disease because the type O blood doesn't have the structure for the virus to apparently attack as much. You don't get an inflammatory response. They found the same thing in SARS patients. If you know SARS, well, this is SARS too. I mean, it's the same family. And so they found the same thing. So it's probably there's something to it. So if you have type O blood, you're luckier than most of us. But if you recall, they were trying to find out what is it that makes some of these people that are supposedly healthy get really bad disease, and it's probably this blood type has something to do with it. The other interesting thing that came out, if you are not aware, Sweden from day one, the government just decided, they told the people that we're not going to monitor you, we're not going to do any lockdown. We trust our citizens to do, the social distancing, and if you want to wear masks and all that. But every place was open, and everybody was closely watching Sweden. This article suddenly said that now there's a backlash because things are getting worse, all this stuff. And I looked at the data. The article said that at that time there are 37,000 confirmed cases. Right now it's 56,000. And Sweden has a population of, I think, 10.2, somewhere around there. It's a little bit over 10,000. Now let's say they haven't, not Sweden, they're very good at tracking people. But let's say we multiply 56,000 by 4. I mean, I'm really going out of limb here. So that comes to 200,000 people out of 10 million. That's still 2% of the population that's confirmed, that probably has the COVID virus. And out of those 56,000, 5,000 have died. So it is a 10% death rate. But if you look at 5,000 out of 10 million people, it's like 0.05%, I believe. And so the article said that the government was hoping that people would get herd immunity. Herd immunity means that at least 50 to 75% of the population has to get infected with the virus. So there's a generalized immunity in the population. It's a natural way of getting immunity. And so the best, so far what they've found is the infection rate in the country is about 5 to 8%. Stockholm, the capital, has had the highest, but it's only been 8% of people, which is way below 50%. So the reason I bring this up is, it's interesting. I just don't get it. This thing started and it was the apocalypse, and everybody seemed to be dying and getting intubated and all of that. It doesn't seem, it is twice as contagious as the flu, but it's really hard to infect people. I mean, if you look at Sweden, when everybody was walking around, the restaurants were open, everything was open, only 8% at the most got infected. If you look at the worst case scenario, which was that the cruise, if you remember, go back to that cruise because it's really the worst case scenario. There were over 3,000 people all crammed in a ship. At dinner, everybody's in one area, everybody's interacting with the waitresses and the waitress and the chef cook. Everybody's, potentially infecting each other. And I said 20%, but I rounded out. It was about 19.2% of people got infected. and overall 1.1% of that 3,000, you know, well, 1.1% of the people that got infected died. So, you know, 700 people got infected and about 8 died. So, you know, again, the reason I bring this up, it just does not seem to be this horrific thing that the media, again, I blame the media and social media for making it a lot worse than it was. Now that we have more data, we see it is just not as bad. And to be honest with you, you know, in my first video, which I'll put the link somewhere down here, I said it's probably very similar to the flu. Now the flu, you know, the coronavirus family is part of the flu family. And you know, the death rate for the flu is overall 0.1%. For this coronavirus is 1%. It is 10 times higher, but we have a vaccine for the flu. So the question is, if there was no vaccine for the flu, they're probably very similar. But it is twice, according to the experts, it is twice as more contagious. But you know, it just doesn't seem like everybody's gonna get this thing, because you know, in Sweden, even on, you know, even the ship, only 20% got infected. So you know, in California, so you know, there's this. I just don't know what we know what we need to do. But, you know, California, Orange County, where I practice and live. You know, they said that masks are encouraged but not required. Then the governor said that no, you know, you need to wear a mask when you go into a public place. So the restaurants now have opened up. So how are you going to go to a restaurant and eat with a mask on? I mean, you know, at some point, you know, so what are they going to do? Go back to takeout again? I mean, all these businesses are going to go under. So it is, and I'm not saying I know the answer, you know, that's why I don't want to be in these situations where you make these decisions. It's not an easy job. But to me, you know, the best scenario is, let's say you get a cut on your index finger of your dominant hand. So if you're right-handed, right-handed, if you're left-handed, left-handed. Now there's no way that you can use your hand like this, right? The index finger is just, you need that. And so if you have a cut there, it's going to hurt, right? It's going to hurt. So you put a Band-Aid on it, and it still hurts. So you wrap it with a little gauze so you have padding. Now you can use that finger. It's not ideal, but you can use it until it heals. And there's nothing you can do. You can't sew it. It's not deep enough for you to sew it. I mean, you know, it's not infected, so there's nothing to do. So to me, the way, at least in the United States, we're trying to handle this is kind of like the same thing. We're putting a Band-Aid with a padding on it until, you know, the virus comes. The vaccine, you know, the vaccine is developed. So, but, you know, my goal for making this video, because I know some people personally who have just gone off the deep end. I mean, they are OCD to the extreme with this thing. They wash, you know, everything. They don't go out. They don't do anything. You know, they don't let people come in or out. They wear a mask all the time. I mean, it's a miserable way of living for something that's, you know, that's being over-exaggerated. And, you know, if you do need to get some help, then get some help. I mean, there's nothing wrong. It doesn't mean you're crazy, but, you know, I'm hoping that some of you listening to this will get back to a little more logical approach to this coronavirus or anything that comes. Again, the chance of something happening like these movies that kills 90% of the world population, it's probably never going to happen. I mean, if you look at the history of the world, even back in the plague, when it came to Europe, I mean, you know, they didn't know anything about microbes. They had no soap. They blah blah blah. It killed a third of the Europe's population. It's a lot, but it wasn't a 90%. And I'm not trying to minimize all of these things, but the point is, it's probably never going to happen. You know, These things happen in movies, and we've had a long history to prove that it's gonna be probably impossible. So, like I've always said, just wash your hands before you touch your face, because that's how this thing gets in there. Um, the mask thing, I mean, there's data from Germany that said people, if you wear a mask overall, there's a 40% reduction in infection rate. So, I mean, I guess it's not a bad idea, but, you know, it's mainly to prevent you coughing and sneezing on somebody. It's not the other way around. Most of the masks, especially the ones that are non-surgical, are letting a lot of things in. So don't think you're being protected. You're just doing that out of courtesy to other people. So keep that in mind. All right, so be safe, and if I have any interesting news, I'll share it with you. All right, take care.